Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. Thanks so much for joining me today for Twinkle Toes. This is a really fun and colorful painting full of lots of magic. We're going to be working on a 16 by 20 canvas for this one today, and I've got a lot of different colors I'm going to be using, so I'll list them all below like I always do in the description below this video. But first we're just going to start off with black and white and a large Filbert brush. I've been using this Filbert brush a lot. It's really good for blending large areas and backgrounds. So I'm just working my way in towards the center of the canvas, starting at the outside edges, working my way in to create some almost like a starburst effect. So lots of sun rays in all different directions. And I'm not going to overblend any of these rays because I want them to have different tones and darkness and lightness to them, if that makes sense. So here you can see some areas are going to have a little bit more black to them. And I'm also using a little bit of water on my brush just to help blend that paint out and help it flow a little bit easier onto the canvas. Now once I do this, I'm kind of creating a vignette, right? So we're kind of having it dark around the edges, and then it's going to be nice and bright in the center. Once I'm done with my black and my gray, I'm going to come in and work from the center out, so doing the opposite with titanium white. So that will give us that really nice bright star, glowing star effect. Okay, so I'm getting ready now to start adding my white. I've got quite a bit on the tip of my brush. I'm not using any water for this step. I want it to be nice and thick and bright and not see-through. Otherwise it's going to be kind of like a dull color that is underneath this paint, the canvas color that's like a light gray. So I want this to be really, really nice and bright. And this way I'm going to get nice, beautiful pastel tones, and all those colors are going to show up a lot more vividly than they would if I didn't have this base here first. So I'm going to do this, try to make it nice and even all around, nice and bright from the center. Once that's dry, and because the acrylic paint dries so fast, I didn't have to wait too long, and it's pretty warm in my studio today. I'm just going to simply come in with my brightest cool yellow. It's a lemon yellow. I'm all out of my neon yellow right now, my neon yellow cool. So I'm taking lemon yellow, and I'm going to take a bit of white with it too to make it extra bright in some areas, specifically in the center. And then I'm going to work my way into orange by coming in with my neon yellow warm. And then I'm going to move on to neon orange, then to neon red, neon pink, and then my blues and purples, and just kind of work my way around in a rainbow effect. So I want all the colors to blend into one another seamlessly, so that it kind of just looks like you don't know where one starts or stops. It just really flows nicely and is easy on the eyes. So you can use any other colors. You don't have to use neon paints or fluorescent paints for this tutorial. You can still get really pretty tones with regular based paints. Okay guys, it's just, when you watch my videos all the time, I tend to use neons. It's just kind of my thing. I love them, and especially with titanium white, they make really, really pretty shades. So I've got my lemon yellow again here. I'm going to make this a little bit thicker, and then I'm going to start to come in with my turquoise or bright aqua green and a little bit of white and make sort of a really bright green here, and then work my way into a minty green. And then I'll slowly work my way into my blues. I've got phthalo blue. I've also got ultramarine blue. And I've got a beautiful neon rose, the luminous rose. And all the neons I'm using today are by Holbein. And when you do one color gradually blending into the next color, you get all those other tones in between that are so, so pretty. And I'm not trying to add too much paint. I want it to be kind of see-through, sort of muted towards the edge of the canvas. As I go out with my brush, you can see I'm using less of the paint. I want it to be kind of the brightest in just a few areas just outside of the white. And then if I come in a little bit too far, like I have with this turquoise and blue, what I'm going to do is just take a bit off if I can, if it's still wet, or go right over top with a little bit of white. So it's really, really easy to balance that out and fix it. Right now I'm just taking a bit of white with my ultramarine blue to get a really light ultramarine blue or violet color here. And then I'm going to just make it look, it kind of looks powdery. It's a really powdery, beautiful cornflower blue almost. And then I'm going to take my luminous rose, and you're going to see it's, I think, probably my favorite color out of this whole spectrum of colors that I create. I love that luminous rose. So I'll just continue around, and when I get to the end of my rainbow, I'll just start again. Right, so now I'm just balancing out. I've got all of my rainbow, all my colors done, and I'm just going to come in with a bit of white and soften the center up, making it really bright again, and then sort of just easing out gradually into the other colors so we get a nice transition going on from light to dark. Okay, so I'm ready to start my little ballerina fairies. I'm doing this freehand, just making this up, which can be a little bit tricky. If you want to use reference photos, there's lots out there. You can look at different silhouette ones, or you can just paint step by step along with me. Keep in mind that we're using black, so it's a little bit harder to, it's a little bit less forgiving, I should say. So if you want to start out using just a little bit of a light gray and not much paint, you might feel a little bit more confident and safer doing that. But I'm just coming in with dark gray first. I want it to look like her arms are in that ballerina type of pose. I don't know what it's called, but kind of above her head. And then I'm, for her feet and her hands and all of the fairies that I'm doing today, ballerina fairies, I want them to have beautiful sparkles and stardust coming out so that they just have that extra magical feel to them. And I'm gonna add a little dress. It's gonna be like tulle, so sort of see-through. And then as the painting progresses, I'm gonna add a little bit of color to these fairies. So I'll be going over and adding hints of blue and purple, maybe some pink and turquoise, so that they're not solid black or just solid dark gray. I thought it would be fun to add a little hint of color to them here and there. The second fairy that I begin after this one, I end up not being happy with it at all. It wasn't turning out at all, and I ended up just taking it off. And once I took it off, I ended up taking off some of the paint underneath. So I quickly just corrected that, added those rainbow colors there again where they were missing from accidentally taking some off. And I painted a new ballerina. So just FYI for you guys, you're probably going to be wondering where'd the ballerina go? But I left that out of the video. I didn't think you guys needed to see 5 minutes of me stressing out and scrubbing the original, the first one, off of the canvas. So I kind of skipped past that and I started all over again with a new ballerina. So sometimes this happens when you're working freehand, or even if you have a reference photo, you can sometimes make mistakes, not be happy with the outcome. So it happens to all of us, no matter how many years you've been painting and what your skill level is. So this ballerina fairy is progressing nicely. I'm happy with her. I like her pose and I like her little dress and I like the vibe of this. I actually, looking back at this now, think that the painting looks cool just like this. So you could just leave it like this and have a few little stars and that would be pretty. But if you really want more fairies, then keep watching. And if you guys have any questions, of course, I'm really consistent with my channel and trying to answer all of you guys. So feel free to leave a comment or question below. And we're going to be painting 2 to 3 fairies today, maybe more. Once this video finished, I ended up painting a few more little fairies. And if you want to see what that looks like, I've got the finished product that's for sale on my Facebook art page. So you can see all the other little fairies that I decided to add after. So it starts out looking pretty good. This looks fine, but something just goes terribly wrong, and it's kind of hard for me. I just was not able to correct it. So like I said earlier, or if you're just tuning in now and you're not sure why this is so fast right now, I sped this up quite a bit because I'm going to be taking it off here in just a couple seconds. It didn't work out. I took it off and I started a brand new ballerina. So you'll see that in just a few moments. So I'm just going to start with her wings now, and still just using my little round brush. I'm not using a lot of paint. I want them to look delicate, so a little bit more water than paint, or a little bit more of a drier brush, whatever gets you that more of a subtle look. And then I'll be coming in and softening it and adding a few little lines later. I'm still trying to save this fairy here before I scrub it off. And I think it looks worse after adding the wings, and maybe that's what did it for me. I just realized there's no saving this, so I'll be taking that off here in just a few minutes. But I'm just going to come in here with a bit of water and wiggle from the sides of the wings, and I'm just going to take a little bit of that dark gray off. I picked up a bit of the paint on her arm there. But I want the wings, of course, to be see-through, and I'm going to add little touches of white, pretty white, bright highlights later, and little bits of stars to make it look like she's really twinkling from head to toe, and even her wings, and just really make this painting feel like it's full of magic and stardust. Okay, so if you're just tuning in now, guys, I talked about this earlier a few times. The second fairy I did, I was really not happy with, so I ended up taking it off, and I left that part out of the video because I thought it would be pretty boring and monotonous for you guys to see me scrub and wipe off that fairy there for about 5 minutes. So I'm going to try this again, and hopefully this one works out a little bit better. But if not, I'm going to camouflage any imperfections, anything about it that's not making me happy. I'll camouflage with some pretty colors and some stardust and little twinkling stars everywhere. So I'm going to come in now and just really loosely create some little wings here, some little pixie or fairy wings. And I want to kind of make it look like there's a halo on each of the fairies as well. And again, I'm just doing this really, really loosely. I want it to feel whimsical, and I'm not worried too much about a lot of detail like hands and feet or facial features. I just want to get a basic suggestion. It's all about just creating a suggestion, and as long as you get a feeling and an idea from a painting, that's all you need, unless you're really out to create a lot of detail. Then this video is not for you. So if you want to learn how to paint more loosely and freely and intuitively, this is the channel that you want to subscribe to. I want to encourage you guys to develop your own art skills, your own just kind of unlock your own creativity. So I want to just really inspire you guys to be able to be happier painters and to look at painting a little bit differently and not be overwhelmed or intimidated by it and think that you have to paint perfectly and really, really tightly. It's all about being happier, right? We've got enough stress going on with our everyday lives, and when we're creating and painting and doing something that brings us joy, that's really important. So we need to do more of that. I'm just going to come in here and kind of just define her silhouette a little bit more before I come in and add her little ballerina dress. And you can see here, all I'm doing is just creating these little, it almost looks like an umbrella. So you could think of it like that, an imperfect little umbrella for her tutu. And just a few lines in there. Those are just the folds of her tulle, and we're leaving it see-through. I want to have all those pretty colors kind of showing through. And like I said earlier, in case you missed it, I'm going to be adding hints of color to her figure and her silhouette later on. Like I'm going to be using a little bit of blue, a little bit of turquoise in some areas, and I thought that was just kind of a nice addition to the fairies. So don't skip through any of this. Make sure you watch till the end, or you might miss a few different steps here and there. Okay, now that I've finished up on this little fairy, I'm going to start adding some sparkles and twinkles and little stars. I'm just going to take the tip of my brush with a little bit of titanium white and just do little dots and dabs everywhere. Sometimes I'm going to soften them with my finger, and other times I'm going to actually pull and flick little lines all out to make them look like little twinkling stars. I just want to make it look like there's a little bit of a glow around her silhouette, so I'm taking my tinted white. You can tint your white with whatever color that you want. I've just got a little bit of yellow with my white here, and I'm just slightly outlining some parts. And then as I progress with this painting and add a few more fairies, I'm going to sort of make it look like there are rays kind of shooting out or coming out from either side of the fairies as well. And I'm just going to continue with the stars. This takes a few minutes, so I'm going to be, it's pretty repetitive, so I'm not going to talk throughout the whole thing, but I'm going to add the stars all over. I'm going to go right over top of part of the silhouette and kind of make it look like They're kind of enveloping the fairies and wrapping around, and then I'll begin working on my next fairies. So for the next fairy, I'm going to start this one in white. I want this one to look softer because it's farther away. So the ones that are closer to us are going to be darker and a little bit more intense and in detail, but the ones that are farther away are going to be a little bit more subtle looking in detail and softer in tone. So just all I'm doing is really just wiggling around with my brush, pulling and flicking for the ends of her legs and her feet, making them just look pointy. Remember, we're not doing any detail. And then just where her wings are, pushing and wiggling, just using the round brush really loosely and freely. So it looks like she's just got one of her knees sort of up and the other leg is straight down and her arms are up. And then I'm going to take a little bit more of my white, and again, you can tint your white with any of the colors that we're using today, and add some stars. I will come in and add a little bit more color to her, making her a little bit darker, so I'll add a little bit of gray and maybe a few other colors along the way. Okay, so like I talked about in the beginning, started out with a dark gray, almost black silhouette here for these fairies, but what I mentioned earlier is that I did come back after and add some color. So I've got my ultramarine blue here with just a little bit of white, and I thought I would soften this a little bit because over time when the paint dries it tends to dry darker, and I thought it just would be a little bit more interesting to choose a color for the shadow and parts of the silhouette instead of making it look just dark gray and almost black. But you guys can choose to paint yours whatever colors that you want. The black is fine or dark gray is fine. You guys just know that I really love color, and I've actually been doing a lot of black and whites lately, so it's fun. I really like to hop back and forth and switch from a limited palette to a full-on rainbow palette like this. And now I'm going to begin working on my fourth fairy, and I'm going to use the blue again, blue and a little bit of white, and make this one a little bit softer as well, but not as light as the third fairy I did. So I'm going to work on this one for a bit, and then I'm going to hop over to the other fairy and add a little bit of blue and more depth to her as well. And I'm just making these up out of my head. I'm not looking at any reference photos. I just enjoy painting like this, and I talk about this a lot in my videos because there's a lot of you watching right now that have just stumbled upon my channel and you happen to just see this and you're probably wondering where the reference photo is. So what I do on my channel and my videos and the way I paint and approach my paintings is 95% intuitive, so I don't always know ahead of time what I'm painting. I don't like to plan things. I love to just paint from my heart and imagination, and I like to inspire you guys and help you get out of your comfort zones and really just teach you about color mixing, feeling free, and discovering your own inner artist and unlocking it. That being said, sometimes I do use a few reference photos. A lot of my photos or photographs that I take I'll paint from, but I always change them up and exaggerate them and enhance the color and details and make them more whimsical and fantasy-like. So I've got a mixture of everything on my channel, but yeah, I'm just going to finish this one up and then work on the other little fairy there. I'm going to add a lot of stars again all over, and just keep continuing along with this painting. I'm really having fun with this one, and I recommend trying this, you guys. Follow along step by step here with me, and feel free to change it up and add a few more fairies if you want. Now, after I was finished filming this tutorial for you guys, I did add a few more fairies. Now, if you want to see what my finished painting looks like, it's up on my Facebook page, not the Facebook group. I've got two pages, so I've got my Facebook group that you guys can all join and share your versions of my tutorials, and then I've got my Facebook page where I post all of my private paintings and just a lot of what's going on in my studio, as well as on Instagram, and if anybody's interested in purchasing, that's where I sell all of my paintings. And like I mentioned earlier too, that I was going to come back and add little hints of colors to their little tutus and their tulle little skirts. So what I'm doing is adding a little bit of turquoise. I'm taking my turquoise with a bit of white and making a really soft shade of turquoise. So you'll see me in just a second go up to the very first fairy, and I'm going to add a few little lines and flicks on her little skirt. And all this does is, like, what I'm going for is trying to give it that shimmery iridescent look without adding actual iridescent paint. That's something you could do if you wanted, but I like to try to get that on my own without using the iridescent paint. I'm interested in achieving that without doing it. I like to challenge myself sometimes. If I worked a little bit longer on it and added more colors and shadow and highlights, I could enhance it a little bit more. But yeah, there are a lot of really beautiful iridescent paints out there. I've got a few. I've got a pearl one that's my absolute favorite. And if you guys are interested in watching a tutorial or learning more about how you can enhance your paintings and incorporate metallics, glitters, and shimmer paints, I've got so many different types of iridescent paints and interesting types of paints that I can demonstrate for you guys. So just leave a comment below. Let me know what it is you guys are interested in learning. And yeah, it really helps me know what to put out there for content for you guys and what you're interested in learning about. Okay, so it's time to come in and add a nice little accent here of turquoise and white just on the outside of her arm and her waist and her dress. And then I'm going to be enhancing the other fairy at the top, the smaller one there, the fourth one, and I'm going to be using a little bit more blue, creating a little bit more depth and shadow and building up to a silhouette there. And I'm going to be also adding quite a few more stars on the right side of this painting and kind of all around, and just making the stars look like they have a soft haze, a glowing haze around them. I really want to capture the magical, childlike feeling of this painting. Hopefully all ages will enjoy looking at this painting, and it kind of just gives you that sense of whimsy and nostalgia for being a little kid again. So just after adding a little bit more turquoise to my little fairies, I'm going to come in and have a little bit of phthalo blue. I'm not using a lot of paint, and I'm kind of mixing it in with my wet turquoise paint that I added underneath there. So it's gradually going to build up to more of a silhouette, but it's still overall going to be lighter and softer than the other ones. Okay, so now I'm going to finish off the ends of her legs, her feet, her hands, and her arms with some stars, and just add a few more little sun rays and sunbeams coming out from either side of the fairies. And then I'm going to move on to the bigger stars that go around closer to the edges of the canvas. And then this painting will be all done. So I hope you guys enjoy the rest of this video. And I thank you so much for joining me today, showing all the support on my channel, Patreon, Instagram, and Facebook. You guys are awesome. I feel so lucky to have, I feel like, the most amazing subscribers, and you guys really motivate me and inspire me to keep going with my channel and creating more content. So it's all thanks to you guys. So if you're watching right now and you haven't subscribed, please go ahead and subscribe and tap the bell so you get notified and don't miss out on any of my upcoming videos. So I'm really looking forward to seeing your versions of this one. Look for links below for the Facebook group, and share and upload your versions from my tutorials there. I'm really looking forward to seeing everything you guys have been painting. So have a wonderful day, guys, and I'll see you next time soon.